morning, everyone. My name is Joanna May Maglana, and before we formally start, let me introduce to you my members. First is Venegas Princess, Lopez Angel, David Reselin, and lastly Antonio Marvin. And we will present to you our research proposal entitled The Impact of Social Media Towards the Academic Performance of Senior High School. So let's proceed to the abstract. We conducted this research to identify the effect of social media usage in the academic performance of senior high school, to examine if it has a positive or negative effect to them. Since we are in the midst of pandemic, we, the researcher, consider the current situation that some of the students are taking their classes online. So there is a possibility that their time between using social media and attending online classes will be divided. That probably cause the continuing decrease nor increase the academic performance of the students. Introduction. Over the past few years when social media was invented and expanded until it has become a phenomenon in the world, social media plays an important role in every student's life. It's easier for them to communicate, access information, and provide information through social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and etc. In addition, according to Oxford Dictionary, social media are websites and applications that enable users to create and share content or to participate in social networking. However, as stated by Mingo 2016, this study further explored the relationship between private and public schools about social media use and academic performance. Therefore, the objectives of the study were to find out activities performed by students on the social media, their effect on spelling during an examination, and to find out if participation affected students and grades before and after using social media. In this statement, medium became one of the methods to communicating with other people socially and has been used particularly by the college students. Currently, Facebook remains the most used social media over other social media. That shows the rapid increase of use. Social media application can strengthen class materials and positively influence the discussion and collaborative work. To continue our presentation, may I call on Angel Lopez.
Good morning, everyone. I am Angel Lopez, and I am assigned to discuss the statement of the problem, framework, and the significance of the study. The statement of the problem of our research aims to know how the social media affects the performance of the student in school. This study seeks to answer the following questions. Number 1. How senior high school students are the most affected by the use of social media? Number 2. What are the negative and positive impact of the usage of the social media to the student? Number 3. What is the relationship between the usage of social media and the academic performance of the student? Let's move on to the framework. The input of the general plan of this study is the respondent should be grade 12 students in Francisco J. Nepomuceno Memorial High School. The objective of this study is to find out how this excessive usage of social media can affect the academic performance of a student. Next one is the process. The first thing we did in conducting this research, we planned how we'd gather the data by using surveys, questionnaires, and a structured interview as instrument. Lastly, we as a researcher, we asked for a consent and made a request letter for our teacher. The last part of the framework is the output, or what will be the outcome of our study. In conducting this study, we will know the reaction of the body and mind of the students in using social media. The result of this study will lessen the impact of the social media usage in academic performance of the student. Let's proceed to the significance of the study. Since nowadays, most of the students didn't know the overusing of technology, particularly their engagement in different platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. This study will help them to manage their habit and force them to change their usage of social media. This research will be beneficial and insight to the following. Teacher. The teacher will have an idea on what strategies they will do to guide the student and avoid excessive usage of social media by simply advising them the possible effect of it to them. Student. This study will help to inform a student, particularly in senior high school, about overusing social media that will have a great impact to their daily lives. It will also help them to change their time schedule in using social media platform responsibly. Parent. Parents are informing their children regarding to this study to monitor the time of their children for using social media. Future researcher. This study will serve as related literature and guide for the future researcher as their cross-reference for their study in the future. May I call on Russell David to continue our presentation.
Scope and delimitation. This part of our research paper is to clarify what is the main purpose of this study, and it is all about knowing the impact of social media usage towards the academic performance of grade 12 senior high school student of Francisco G. Nepomuceno Memorial High School. This research focuses on analyzing the social media usage including Instagram, Twitter, and academic performance of the student when it comes to their grades. Research design. This study employed research design. This research design was appropriate to the researcher that described population, situation, or phenomenon that was happened in Francisco G. Nepomuceno Memorial High School. The researcher's instrument was validated by Mr. Eliseo C. Combate. He graduated as a Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English from Central Bicol State of Agriculture, Calabanga Campus. Participants. The participants of this study was grade 12 student of Francisco G. Nepomuceno Memorial High School, who are using platforms on social media. From the population of 409, the sample of this student were 39 participants calculated using Calmuren's formula. To seek the random participants in a research study, the researcher used a Google form. The Google form was consisted of questions that determine the impact of social media toward their academic performance. To continue our presentation, may I call on Princess Calvin Nieves for the instrument.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Princess Calvin Niegas, and I'm going to present the instrument, data gathering procedures, data analysis, and ethical consideration of our study. Instrument. In this study, the instrument that we used to gather data was an online survey questionnaire consisting of questions provided by the researchers. The questionnaire was divided into two parts. The first part was used to identify the section, age, and gender of our grade 12 participants. The second part was used to find out how the social media usage affect their academic performance. It can be answered by very much agree, somewhat agree, not much agree, and not at all. Our questionnaire was validated by an English teacher named Eliseo Combate. Next is the data gathering procedure. All of our participants have willingly answered our survey questionnaire. However, before we distributed the survey to grade 12 students, we asked for the approval of the teacher who validated our research to ensure that our survey has questions that were easy to understood. Following the survey, we made sure that we finalized all of the responses that we received from the participants. Next is the data analysis. Following the collection of responses from our participants, we analyzed it using table and graph given in the Google form. We gathered data including personal information and percentage that were shown and examined using the table and graphs. To ensure that the findings are accurate, we analyze it in a methodical manner wherein we pay attention to every details and carefully collected the answers to avoid incorrect answer and confusion. The result of our study were then presented in a clear manner in order to avoid any misunderstandings between readers and researchers. Next is the ethical consideration. The students who have participated in our research were willingly answered our survey. No forcing and pressure happened. We sent a message first asking if they can be a part of our research before sending our Google Form survey. We asked for their consent first because our participants have the right to be informed what our study is all about and they can back up from answering our questionnaire. All of their responses will remain confidential. To continue our presentation, may I call Joanna Maglana to proceed.
Result. The findings provide personal data from the participants as well as key results to the online questionnaire. The online questionnaire was successfully completed by the total number of 35 participants. According to this graph, this image represents the section of grade 12 students that participated in the Research Online survey. Section Ionite got the higher respondents with an equivalent of 29.4%, followed by the Sapphire with 17.6%. Moreover, 3.3% of the respondents were from Section Helenite, and the rest, grade 12 Garnet, Sandstone, Onyx, got the same equivalent for a total number of 2.9%. The second part of the survey questionnaire that will be shown are the answers from the grade 12 students of Francisco G. Nepomuceno Memorial High School with regards to the impact of social media usage towards the academic performance of the students. So the following statement in the questionnaire were answerable by very much agree, somewhat agree, not much agree, not at all agree, and we will show to you the graphs that we collected from our participants. In the first statement of our research questionnaire, 54.3% of the students have responded somewhat agree, while 25.7% answered very much agree, and 17.1% answered not much agree. This shows that social media has an impact on practically every senior high school student's grade. Statement number 2 illustrated that 62.9% of students have responded somewhat agree and 22.9% answered very much agree, indicating that senior high school students are most influenced by the usage of social media, while 14.3% answered not much agreed. That senior high school are the most In addition, in statement number 3 presented that half of the participants responded somewhat agree while the other half answered very much agree. This shows that senior high school students are introduced to the new normal type of education. However, in response to the statement number 4, 45.7% of learners responded somewhat agree, implying that social media motivates them to do schoolworks, while 25.7% answered not much agreed that social media motivated them. Statement number 5 shown that 37.1% of students responded somewhat agree, which means that social media has a negative impact on their test result, while 45.7% answered not much agreed that social media affects their test result. Statement number 6, the result shows that 62.9% of the students said that they somewhat agree, while 22.9% of the students answered not much agree. This shows that social media have positive effect on early or senior high school students. Statement number 7, it shows that 42.9% of students are somewhat agree, and on the other hand, 37.1% are very much agree. This statement proved that poor academic performance of students is somewhat caused by social media usage. Statement number 7, it conveyed that 68.6% of the respondents were somewhat agreed that social media helps the student to improve their education process, while 14.3% of students answered that sometimes it's very helpful nor it's not. Statement number 9 illustrates that 48.6% of the participants somewhat agreed that student behavior are being affected by social media, while 31.4% of them very much agreed with that statement. And lastly, in the statement number 10 indicates that 60% of the participants say that they spend 5 to 8 hours using different social media platforms, while 22.8% of them using social media for only 5 to 11 hours. To continue the presentation, may I call on Marvin Antonio?
Conclusion. The frequent usage of social media impacts the academic performance of students, particularly senior high school students. Most of the students say that they were introduced to the new normal type of education, which is known as distance learning, and the regular use of social media doesn't motivate them at all to do their schoolwork at home. Some of the negative impacts of this on senior high school students are the following. 1. It influenced their test results. 2. Has contributed to their poor academic performance. 3. It affects students' behavior. On the other hand, most of the students agreed that the use of social media improves their education process. Based on this finding, the use of social media has a negative impact and has a significant relation to students' academic performance. Thus, an increase in the excessive use of social media decreases academic performance. Recommendation. Based on the findings and conclusion presented, the following recommendations are suggested. 1. The researcher recommend that the senior high school students must minimize the use of social media platform to prevent its negative impact on their academic performance. 2. The researcher recommend that the parents must guide their children in the use of technological gadget and social media platform in order to help and encourage them to study better and prevent the overuse of it. 3. The researchers recommend that teacher and educational institution must take into account the overuse of social media platform among students in order to minimize its negative effect, especially during these times.